because I'll be doing this from my phone now.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Youth Lead webinar. Tonight's focus is on financial literacy, with focus points on budgeting, savings, building credit, and student loans. A huge thank you and shout out to Delta Community continued support and sponsorship through their continuing education, and of course, for their incredible representative coming on to speak with us tonight. A couple of housekeeping items before we go ahead and get started. Reminder for everyone watching here live to go ahead and mute yourself. And if you have any questions at all, please put them into the chat and we will address them after. So before we get started, I would like to introduce our incredible Tiana Skipper is a community development representative for Delta Community Credit Union. Tiana Skipper is a community representative for Delta Community Credit Union. In this role, she manages community and school relationships, facilitates financial education workshops, and assists with fundraising initiatives. Tiana has a passion for financial literacy and serving her community, which has been exemplified through her service efforts in her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. In addition, Tiana holds a Bachelor of Science in Sports Management from Kennesaw State University, where she graduated magna cum laude. Without further ado, Tiana, the microphone is yours. Please let me know if you have any technical assistance questions. And again, for everyone, please keep those mics muted. And for any questions, put them in the chat below, as we will have some time to go over them at the end. Thank you all.
Well, hi, everyone. First of all, again, thank you all for just taking the time out of your evening to join me and join your peers in just talking about financial literacy. Financial literacy is very important. It's one of the big components of life. So it's glad that you're getting it in early. And I just wish that I knew half the stuff you're learning about today back when I was your age. Like he said, feel free to put your questions in the chat. I will do my best to answer any and all of them throughout the presentation, but I will also be answering questions at the end. So to go ahead and get us started, because I know it's kind of late in the evening, I haven't had dinner yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in here just to go over a few things. We are going to be talking about the importance of managing money. So we're going to go over financial goals, budgeting, tools for managing money, importance of saving, understanding credit, and of course, financing for college. From my understanding, a lot of you are in this age range where you're thinking about a lot of these things. You're preparing yourself for college. You're hearing things about credit reports and credit scores, talking about saving money, different things that you are now considering as big, important decisions in your life. So we're going to kind of cover a lot of those topics today. Now, to get started, we're just going to talk about some goals here. Now, you hear all the times that, you need to have goals. Okay, so that applies to your money. Let's start with goals. What do you want to do with your money? Do some of you want to buy a car? Some of you want to buy a house one day? Are there some small things that you want to do? Do you want to take a trip to a theme park? Or you want to take a trip to another state or out of the country? There are different goals that you have to be prepared for and have your money prepared for as you experience life. So we like to always talk about the time frame for goals. You have your short-term goals, mid-term, and long-term, right? So, and feel free to put it in the chat. What is an example of a short-term goal? What is something that you might can save for that may only take less than a year? Something that may only take, a few months or a couple of weeks. Go ahead and put that in the chat right now. Something that may be a short-term goal that you can go ahead and make sure that you're saving your money for right now. Go ahead and put it in your chat. Okay, someone says saving up for a trip or vacation. That can definitely be a short-term goal. Everybody's going, see, everybody's taking trips. So these are short-term goals. These are goals that you have. Oh, somebody said concert tickets. I like that. That's a very good one. But yes, these are goals that you have that doesn't take a long amount of time. So it may only take a few months. It may only take a couple of weeks for you to save for that goal, right? And then you have like your midterm goals. Midterm goals can be like a vacation that may be out of the country, or a very big vacation. Those are your midterm goals that may take 1 to 5 years. Sometimes, hey, say you want to buy a car and you want to put a little bit of money down. That might be a midterm goal. It might only take you a couple of years to save enough money to have as a down payment for a vehicle, right? And then of course you have your long-term goals. Now, everyone, I want you to go ahead, put in the chat, what do you think some long-term goals are? Things that would take 5+ years. So if you think about 5+ years from now, what are some things that you need to start saving for at this moment that you can afford in 5+ years? You know, we always have our common answers. Okay, somebody's buying a house, a new car. Oh, Gabrielle said she wants to buy and fix and flip properties. Right, now that applies to you. That is a very good long-term goal, because you have to have the funds set aside to, you know, be able to fix and flip properties later on down the line, right? So what we like to say is, you know, you got to make sure your goals are measurable. We like to say you got to make sure your goals are smart. Reagan says college, right? Those are long-term goals. But how can you like really prepare your goals like that? How can you make sure your goals make sense, right? So we like to set SMART goals. So for us, SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time specific, right? So you want to make sure your goals are specific, like, okay, I want to save $10,000 for a new car, okay? Now I gotta make sure my goal is measurable, and you'll see right here on the screen, I'm gonna put $10,000 and say I want to save $10,000 in 2 years, right? So that's 24 months. So I'm gonna take $10,000 divided by 24, and that's gonna tell me the amount of money I need to save a month to have $10,000 in 2 years, right? That would be a midterm goal. So you want to do a short-term goal, all right? 6 months. You want to take a trip to Six Flags, somebody's put in the chat, right? Okay, that ticket might cost $70. You want to go in by the end of this summer, so you got 2 months. How much do you need to save to get a month to make sure you have enough money for that trip to Six Flags? So always take your price, the amount of time that you have. So even if it's 5+ years, you want to put that in months and come up with the monthly amount that you need to set aside to reach that goal, right? So we definitely got to make sure we are prepared. We have to make sure our goals are SMART in order to reach them, right? Okay, now let's talk about the fun subject. Let's talk about budgeting. Put in the chat if you heard the word budget before. If you know anything about a budget, you can go ahead and put it in the chat right now. If you heard somebody talk about one, or if you're actually already budgeting, let me go ahead and see it in the chat and let me know, do you feel like budgeting is a good thing or is it a bad thing? Somebody say yes, it's key. Yeah, right? Is budgeting a good thing or a bad thing? Go ahead and put it in the chat for me. Somebody said good. Awesome. Also, tell me, what do you think a budget is? What is your idea of a budget? When you hear the word budget, what are you thinking of? Go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Because budgeting is the foundation of managing money, right? Somebody says a plan, right? It's organizing your income, right? It is a plan for your money. A budget is like a complete financial plan. It's a spending plan, is what we like to call it, for your money. You are taking the time out to really sit and look at, what am I going to do with my money, right? And what do I need? Somebody already brought up needs and wants. Like, what do I need and what do I want? And how do I create a plan for that? That is what a budget is. So like I stated beforehand, budgeting is the foundation of managing money. So what we like to do when it comes to budgeting, we want to write down our monthly income, right? So we're going to look at our paycheck that we may get, and we're going to think about how much money is in that paycheck and whether we get paid twice a month, whether we get paid every week. We're going to write down the income of our paychecks, right? And we're going to write it down. We're going to get the total for that month, right? So say your total might be $2,000. You're going to write $2,000 down. And then you're going to think about some monthly expenses, and you're going to wonder like, okay, now I need to make some categories. Where does this money need to go? Okay, I know I need money for food, maybe. I might need money for housing. I may need money for gas. We see gas has went up. So these are different categories, right, that you need money for. So these are your monthly expenses, and you have to identify them. And then after you do that, you want to see how much of your income will go to each expense category. For me, I'm like, okay, gas has increased and I do a lot of traveling for work, right? So maybe I should increase my gas budget and maybe decrease another expense category, maybe food or eating out, and you got to make sure you make those changes as you're going through your budget, because one thing about your spending plan, it doesn't just have to be, this is it, and that's going to be set in stone. Your spending plan can change. You can definitely make those adjustments as you're going. And the way you're able to do that is to track your spending. You want to track to see where your money is going. I know my biggest problem is food, okay? I like to eat, everyone. I will spend money on food all the time, okay? So I know a lot of my money goes to food. So when I go back and I track and I'm like, okay, I've spent $100 on food this week. Next week, I need to cut that in half. I'm tracking my spending and being able to see like, where is my money going? Which expense category maybe I can save a little bit more in, and kind of changing it as I go. So one of the key things we want to do is, of course, write down our monthly income, identify those expenses. You can put entertainment as an expense for those of you who like to go out with friends, go to the movies. You can put eating out as an expense. And then, of course, you have those things. Someone already talked about those needs. Your needs are expenses. So you definitely want to make sure you categorize that and put money into each category and try not to go over. Because what happens when you go over budget? You need money for something else. When you have money, extra money go in this place, that means money is being taken away from somewhere else. And you need to ensure that that doesn't happen. You want to be prepared. So we discussed income, right? How many of us has a job or is thinking about getting a job? Go ahead and put it in the chat right now. All right, so you don't have a full-hour part-time job. What are some ways you are earning money? Are you getting an allowance? Or do you have a savings? Where is money coming from for you? You can go ahead and put that in the chat and kind of see, because what we're going to do is take a look at a paycheck. Okay, so Reagan has a job. Awesome. Awesome. Everybody says job and small businesses. I love that. Woo-woo to all my entrepreneurs. Student loans, yes. Okay, I remember that refund check. I remember it. That was my income as well. I remember that refund check. It can get a little tricky, can it? That refund check, ooh, it can get you. So what you want to do with that income. Also, I said, I got a bakery. I love this. You guys are amazing. I'm loving these jobs and these incomes coming in from small businesses and our refund checks that we're getting. I'm loving to see that. So right here, we have a paycheck in front of us. Now, who knows, when you look at your paycheck, are you taking home your gross pay or are you taking home your net pay? Which pay are you taking home? Somebody go ahead and let me know. Which pay are we taking home from our paycheck? So in our example that's on the screen, we have a net pay of $2,577. And then, our gross pay was like $3,333. So which one will we be taking home? Gabrielle says net, correct. You'll be taking home your net pay. Does somebody know the difference between gross and net pay? Go ahead and put that in the chat. What is the difference between gross and net pay? Let me go ahead and see that, right? If somebody can tell me what the difference is between gross and net pay. Gonna give you a little time. Take a look at the paycheck on the screen. Kind of see if you kind of know. Think about the job that you have. What is something that's taking your money before you get it? Starts with a T. There we go. Before and after taxes, right? Your gross pay is before taxes and your net pay is after taxes. So that net pay is what you take home. So when you're creating your budget, are you going to use your gross pay or are you going to use your net pay? Which one do you think you're going to use? Because you got to create that budget from the money you're actually seeing, right? So if you're going to create your budget, are you creating it from your gross pay or are you creating it from your net pay? Anybody can answer, that's fine, right? So yeah, net pay. So when you take a look at your paycheck, for those of us that have that job, when you take a look at that paycheck and you see your net pay, that is the income you want to use in order to create your budget. You want to look at that and like, okay, I have $1,500 this week for these 2 weeks, which means I maybe, depending on the amount of hours, I might have $1,500 in the next 2 weeks. That gives me about $3,000 a month, right? And then you take that income and you start your budget there, right? So say you got that $3,000 a month, boom. Next, we got to talk about all of these expenses. As an adult, as you get older, your expenses are going to grow, okay? Being an adult it's fun, but it's not that much fun because your expenses grow. Now you're thinking about, right now, what are some expenses you may have? Gas, maybe your phone bill. You're not really paying for too much. But as you continue to go in life and have your careers and be millionaires, you're going to have a lot of expenses, right? So yeah, think about housing, utilities as an expense. You got groceries, you got dining out, insurance, gas, all of these medical bills, prescriptions. You might need some medical equipment and supplies. So who's going to pay for that? You are. So these are your expense categories. These are those categories we were talking about. So you might now have a grocery category. You might now have, your utility category. Then you have your eating out category, and you have money in each category so you can make sure that your budget leaves you with money at the end of the month, right? No one wants to be over budget. No one wants to be, having to be like, oh man, how am I going to pay for this? We want to be prepared. That is what our budget allows us to do. It allows us to have this spending plan, to know what we're kind of getting ourselves into. And for all of you that are already in college, look at all the college expenses. You got tuition, room and board, textbooks, and school meal plan, all these additional fees. Like you'll look at it and you're like, what is this technology fee? I'm not even in that class. What is that? But those are expenses that you're paying for to attend college. And thus, you may have enough money from a scholarship or a grant to pay for most of them, but then you might need some additional money to pay for your textbooks and those other activities that you might want to do in college. So you got to make sure you are prepared in those aspects and thinking about all of those expenses. So you want to take the time to really write down all of your categories. I like to share this. This is my little money notebook right here. You see, I have a whole bunch of receipts right here at the top because I'm tracking my spending. I take a look at all of my expense categories and I'm like, okay, where am I spending my money at? Where is it going? And I'm tracking it, I'm writing it down. And sometimes it changes. And so May may be different from April, or June is definitely different from April. April's my birthday month, by the way, so I spend a lot of money that month. So trust me, it's a big difference, right? So those are things you got to account for. Like if I know my birthday's in April, I'm going to spend maybe a little bit more money on eating out. I need to start putting that in my budget. And I need to put, maybe taking money from groceries because I'm not really at home during my birthday month. I'm going to be eating out. So I kind of adjust my budget and my spending plan to fit where I'm at currently, right? So go ahead and just think about that as you're creating your budget. And we're thinking about how we're earning money. We got these expenses. There's one expense on here that I really want to point out. It says savings. You always hear about saving money, right? But when should you save? Should you pay yourself after you pay all your bills, or should you pay yourself before you pay all of your bills? Go ahead and let me know what you think in the chat. Which one do you think you should do? Should you pay yourself first or last? I know what I like to do, but savings is, we like to consider it an expense because you want to make sure you're putting your money to that category, right? Ashton says last. So what else do we got? All right, somebody says first. Daniel says first. Okay, Gabrielle says first. And I will have to agree. You should pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. And it doesn't have to be a lot. You know, it just can be a certain amount of money that you want to make sure you have to the side. What we like to say is tell people to have an emergency savings account, right? And in that emergency savings account, you want to have enough money to, if you lose your job or if something happens, you can kind of live for maybe a good 6 months without freaking out, without panicking, right? During this, past couple of years, a lot of people lost their jobs and they were not prepared to handle paying all of their expenses because they didn't have that amount in their savings account. They weren't prepared for that. Luckily, a lot of people were able to have assistance, but what if you didn't have assistance? You got to make sure you pay yourself first. So for those of you that have a job, maybe you can actually, and if you get direct deposit, you can have $10 go to a savings account. And that way you're not even thinking about that $10 when you create your budget, because that $10 doesn't even matter to you, right? Or you can do $20. You can go ahead and pay yourself first. So that way you're building your savings. Savings is definitely an important expense and it should be first. It should be at the top of our list. All right. So since we are talking about accounts, we are now going into checking accounts. Who has a checking account? And it's okay if you do or if you do not. But checking accounts are important. They're used for our everyday purchases. They're used for paying bills. That's where your debit card, is there. Checking accounts have online banking, bill pay, Zelle. We all have those checking accounts. Even under 18, you can get a checking account. I know here at Delta Community Credit Union, you are able to get your first checking account at the age of 16, as long as you have a joint with you or a custodial person on that account with you. So there's teen accounts, but a lot of us, we're doing things. We're playing sports, we're hanging out. So we need that money that we're going to use for everyday purchases. For when we go to Chick-fil-A, how many people go to Chick-fil-A almost every day? Stop doing that. It's not good. It's not good for you to go to Chick-fil-A every day, but we do. And so you want to use, and you're using that debit card, that is where a checking account comes into play. It's for those everyday purchases. It's for paying bills. Now, right here at the bottom, we have this little note to tell you about check systems. Now, check systems is basically a system that tracks and reports negative information. So if I, Tiana, say I banked at Wells Fargo, and when I was at Wells Fargo, I let my account go into the negatives. And it went negative like $100 because I was just swiping my debit card. I was at Chick-fil-A. I was at the movies. I was shopping. I was on Amazon. Amazon can get you too. I was on Amazon. I was making all of these purchases and I just let my account go into the negatives. And then I just left Wells Fargo. Well, Wells Fargo is going to put that information into the system called check systems. So now if I go to Delta Community is going to be like, hey, I see that you kind of have a bad relationship at Wells Fargo. That relationship might need to be resolved before we can have a relationship with you. So you got to be careful on how you manage those everyday purchases and how you're using your debit card, because banks talk about those things. They share that negative information. Now, if you're good, they're not telling anyone else because they want to keep you. But if there's negative information, they're going to share that to kind of, give people warnings like this person has a negative relationship with us. So just beware. So that's why we want to have our budgets. We want to make sure we're tracking our expenses because we don't want to have negative information out there. Negative information can definitely follow us. All right. So also in regards to having a checking account, you have your ATM and debit cards. So those are the cards that we are using for these everyday purchases. And we just like to have this slide to just let people know the difference between an ATM card and a debit card. All right, the ATM card is just for the ATM. So you're just going to deposit money, you're going to take money out. You can only use it at the ATM. So we have ATM cards, for some of our teens who are just, they're making money and they just want to put it in the bank. They're not shopping, they're not doing anything. They just want to make sure their money goes straight to the bank. They'll get an ATM card because that's all you can do. But with the debit card, you can use it at an ATM and for those everyday purchases like we discussed and paying bills. And then, money automatically just comes out of your account. As soon as you swipe that card, money is out of your account with that debit card. So those are the big differences between an ATM card and a debit card. And so we just have a little bit of housekeeping rules to, make sure you memorize your PIN. We've heard about hackers and scammers and a lot of fraud out there. There's definitely a lot of fraud. So you want to make sure you're protected. You want to make sure you're good to go. So you want to memorize your PIN and you want to never share your card information. Delta community, we will never call you and ask you for your PIN or ask you to share your card information because if I'm your bank, I should at least have your card information, right? But I will never have your PIN because that's personal to you. So never share your your card information. And then always, if anything happens, if your card gets lost or stolen, call your bank immediately. Let them know so they can put a freeze on it. So that way, if some random finds your card, they're not able to use it. Your card is locked, your money is protected because who likes giving away free money? I don't. I like to keep all of my money to myself. I'm a little selfish, except for when I'm giving to charity. But I like to keep my money to myself. You want to keep your money protected. So make sure you remember to always memorize your PIN, never share your card information. Just always keep those housekeeping rules in the back of your head. Now, we discussed paying ourselves first. Well, if I'm paying myself first, where's that money going? Into a savings account. So savings accounts are different from checking accounts because that's the money for future use. That's not the money used for every day. That's the money we're thinking about, hey, I know I want to buy a truck. So I'm going to put money in this savings account for me to buy a truck. Those are for your emergencies, things, major purchases that you have coming up. That is what the savings account is for. And you earn a little bit of interest. Interest is not as big as you might be earning only 0.008%, but you are still earning a little bit of money on that money that you have in that savings account. And when you need it for those emergencies, for those of us driving to work and that tire goes out and we need a new tire, we go into our savings account and we get it, right? Because we have that money there for emergencies. It's liquid. It means we have access to it. So that is why you want to have, your savings accounts. And that's why we also pay ourselves first. And a little bit here, just a little note on compound interest, because compound interest is paid on that initial deposit. And then you're earning money while earning money. So say I put in $100 and by the end of the year, I made $1 in interest. So now I'll be earning interest, earning more money on that $101. So always think about that as well. Compound interest is where you're basically you're accumulating more money while you're earning that money in the first place. It's that initial deposit, the interest you receive, and now you're getting money paid for that new amount. It's not based on that first $100. it's going to be based on that $101. So you're going to keep earning money as you're earning money. I like that, right? Who likes to keep earning money? That is what we like to do. And then everybody talks about investing these days, right? So I know some of you are already out there. You probably got 5 different stocks. You got stock in Tesla, got stock in Apple. I already know some of you have stocks in Amazon already, but you're investing. You are allocating some of your resources and money with the expectation of, I'm going to get more money. I'm going to generate more money. And that's usually used for like our long-term goals. For those of us that have jobs, our jobs may have a 401k. That's investing for retirement, you know? And then some of us might be having education, things that we're investing for, like a 509, different things that, you know, we're investing for financial independence. Like I have a stock in Adidas because I love Adidas, one, but I also want to earn money. I want to get money. And then the only thing about investing is that it involves risk. That money, your profit's not guaranteed. You actually might lose money. And you have to be okay with that because, you know, you decided to invest with hopes of earning money and hopes of generating a profit. So investing is also a way that people save money for future use. So like I said, different types of investment include stocks, you got bonds, property. What's my girl that's gonna be flipping property? That's investing. You are going into that real estate market, right? And so you're investing to have money basically for future use into the real estate. That property is going to earn you money. So that is what investing is. And so we always like to cover that because you definitely should always diversify. Once you get to a comfortable place and you're able to invest and start saving money for future use, you should, especially if you start saving now. If I start saving $100 at the age of 20 or 19, by the time I'm 65, if that money was earning interest, I might have $500,000. I might have $1 million something in that account because I started saving early. I started putting that money aside for long term early. You know, some of us might want to, hey, by the time I'm 60, I'm done working. So you started saving early. You started putting that money aside and it was earning money. And then, hey, you turn 60 and you're like, okay, I'm retired. I'm not working anymore. I'm just going to sit at home, fish, be on the grill, cook, different things like that. So that is always a good idea to, you know, make sure our money is kind of diversified when we're thinking about saving. You want to save in different ways. Now, this I know is our most favorite subject, credit. Who knows about what a credit score is or what a credit report is? Go ahead and drop it in the chat for me. If you already know what a credit score and credit report is, drop it in the chat. And also let me know, is credit important? Tell me right now as I am connecting. My hotspot is trying to die on me. So go ahead and drop in the chat if you think credit is important and if you know what a credit score or a credit report is. Also, I have the answers kind of right there for you. All right, and we're good. Okay. All right. So credit is also not the end all be all, but credit is very important. Credit is definitely a part of your financial life. It's something that you definitely have to consider as you get older and as you're thinking about those decisions and you're planning. You got to think about credit. So credit report and credit score are different. Your credit report is the record of your borrowing history. So it's basically a report that tells all the times that you have borrowed money and were you good at borrowing money or were you bad at borrowing money? That is what a credit report entails. It kind of gives any lender or anybody who's thinking about considering you later on for buying a home or anything like that, it gives them a history of all the things, of all the times that you borrowed money. And then you have your credit score, which is like which is calculated through an algorithm. And it kind of takes a lot of those information as far as your income and how many times you borrow money. Are you good at borrowing money? Have you been paying back on time? And it calculates a score. And score ranges from 300 to 850. 300 is on the poor side, 850 is on the excellent side. So all of us want to have good and excellent credit because that allows us to have lower interest rates for our loans. So if you buy a house, you might get approved for an interest rate that's only maybe 2%, 3%, which means you're ultimately only paying maybe $10,000 instead of $100,000 in interest. So credit qualifies you for those lower interest rates. It makes you think like, if I want to buy this new car, I want to buy it where I'm just basically making payments on the car and not on interest. So that is why the credit report and credit score is so important, because it allows you to have those lower interest rates. So like you see here, credit history can affect buying a vehicle. It can affect getting a cell phone because sometimes they run your credit. They're like, I don't know if I want to give them the iPhone 14. I might just want to give them a flip phone because that's a little bit better. That's something they're more qualified for. It affects you with renting an apartment and sometimes even jobs. It's a little controversial. Some jobs do, some jobs don't. But they might even check your credit and kind of see, is this person good at borrowing money? How do they use their income? They're taking a look into that to see, hey, is this person someone we want to give money to? Delta community, we're not just going to hand you $10,000 or $50,000. We're going to check your credit to make sure we can believe that you're going to pay us back. We want to trust you. And so that is what that credit report and credit score help supply. It helps supply trust for lenders to feel like, hey, I can give this person $20,000 because I know they're going to pay me back. Over this amount of time, I know they will pay me back. So that is what our credit score and credit reports allow lenders to see. And it helps us qualify for low insurance rates. For those of us that are going to buy a car, do you know that you need insurance? You're going to have car insurance. Do you want to pay a lot of money for car insurance? Dollars. Look at your budget and like, oh, my car insurance is $300. That means there's something I may not be able to do. I may not be able to buy an iPhone or iPad because my car is a little high. I don't qualify for insurance. Those are some things credit can impact. And so we want to be use it wisely. As we know, we're going to manage our cash. Pay first. We're going to pay our bills on time. Luckily now, shows on credit. Marion is one of our credit bureaus. You know, we have Bureau, Equifax, and TransUnion. And they're going to are they paying that pay on time, and you use a program like Experience Boost. It helps average. Keep your is money. That way they want earning. So hey, I can feel comfortable with lending them $20. So say you have a friend and your friend needs to borrow $50. That's really pay you back. And they don't really keep a job or anything that they can pay you back. Are you going to give that friend $50? and you just like you. But if you have a friend, give that friend 50 because you trust that they're back to you on our credit. You might go ahead and get a big credit card. Get a secure credit card. I got a secured credit card with SunTrust, which is now Truist, I believe. And it was like $300. So it's like a very small amount. And so with the secured credit card, what that means is that you're going to put your money to the side. So I gave $100 and I basically was borrowing and using that $300 for small purchases, like maybe gas and food, and then I would pay it back, right? So a secured credit allows you to see those payments and start having to see that, hey, this person can pay their bills on time. And then also always think about the good and the bad when it comes to credit cards. You know, you may be able to qualify for a credit card with no credit history, as long as you have some income. So as long as you have that job, they may give you a credit card. But should you get the credit card for $5,000 when it's your first one, or should you get one for maybe $1,000? I'm thinking I'm gonna lean more towards $1,000, because if you can start off with a small limit, you kind of get used to it. You get used to paying the bills on time. You get used to making sure you don't have to pay extra money on interest and things like that with your credit card, because you started off with a small limit and you don't want to get into debt. That is the biggest thing with credit cards, is that credit cards is a very, very quick way for you to get into debt. But we don't have to worry about that because we know how to budget. We know how to track our expenses and our spending. We have our expense categories, and we know how to use credit wisely. So we're going to be good. We're going to be good. I'm not even worried about you all at all. You're going to be able to handle these things with no problems. And then last, let's talk about college. All right, so let's talk about the different types of financial aid. I am a big promoter for scholarships. There are scholarships for almost everything. So always look and take the time to apply for those different scholarships and let them pay for school. I like to go to school for free. I luckily was able to go to school for free because of scholarships and grants. So you definitely want to take the time to apply for those different types of financial aid. And then also work study. Work study is a great program that many colleges offers to help, pay for school. And then once, you exhaust all means, you got your student loans. Hey, student loans, yeah, they can be a little tricky, but as long as you make sure you have a amount that you feel like you can afford and you don't go overboard or too excessive with your student loans, you should be okay to pay those back in a timely manner and not get into that student loan debt that we always hear about when it comes to college. And then you're also going to be prepared for it because you're going to budget, you're going to save. You're going to save for paying, for those student loans in the future. And then some of these sources for this financial aid, of course, is the government. Each college has their own scholarships. Your community, different businesses may have a local scholarship that they do. And then you have private sources like foundations. A lot of nonprofit organizations offer scholarships. So you always want to be on the lookout for those because they're open to everyone based on certain qualifications. Like I said, there are scholarships for everything, whether it's like, the type of financial need, a talent you may have, whatever disability you may have, academic merit. If you're extremely smart, probably go to college for free, but there's scholarships for everything. There's a scholarship, I think, for being right-handed. Like, just pay attention and make sure that you're able to, take the time and really apply. I think I applied for like over 50 plus scholarships when I was a senior in high school, which would allow me to get, my school paid for because, hey, there's a lot of scholarships out there. People are giving away free money. Hey, I might as well make use of it and go to school, right? And then of course, there's the FAFSA, in Georgia, people use the Pell Grant, Hope. Those are different things that you want to be able to use. So always make sure you complete your FAFSA in regards to your financial aid for college, and you'll be good to go. And like I said, I was able to have school paid for, so that was awesome. And that's what you want to aim for. You want to be able to use as little bit of student loans as possible. I still use student loans, but I only use maybe like $10,000. That's the amount I know I'm able to pay back. I've already, almost cut that in half. So sometimes student loans are okay, as long as you know for sure that you're not going to go into debt. That is the only thing in regards to that. So as we are wrapping up, I want you all to be millionaires and think of me. If I am at Delta Community, please come find me. If not, just come find me and share the wealth, because you're practicing what you learn. You're going to build those good habits while you're young. You're going to budget. You're going to build your expense categories, track your spending, and you're going to be millionaires. That's what I'm feeling. Everybody's going to be a millionaire after this, because we're ready, we're prepared. So in the chat, go ahead, tell me something that may have surprised you or something that seems challenging. I know a lot of people think budgets, creating a budget is very challenging, and I agree. A budget can definitely be hard, but as long as you take your time and you make sure you are prepared for it, you are good to go. All right. And then one thing we always like to let our attendees know is that at Delta Community, we have a personalized financial assistance program called Balance. You're able to call them and get financial education and counseling for free, as well as they have a calculator where you can do like mortgage calculations, auto loan calculations, and kind of gives you that extra assistance you may need. It helps with debt repayment. So always be able to use that. As long as you are a Delta Community member, it is free for you. And I just want to say thank you, guys. We made it through. Yes, and good timing. I did great. I was trying to make sure we weren't going past 7 o'clock. My stomach is over here is growling. And just so you all know, we also have some promotions going on right now. If you open a checking account with us, you can earn $150. We also have, any graduates for the class of 22, we have a promotion for them as well. That's going on right now. That's on our screen. And I will share the current community promotion that we have going on. I will share that with your leaders here, Tommy. And I'll make sure he passed that information out to all of you. But let's see, we have a couple of questions. Let me scroll up in the chat, okay. How do you recommend giving to be managed? I didn't see it in the budget. Okay, yes, giving is definitely a part of many people's budget. So say what I did here. So say like in my notebook, I went through all of my budget categories and I still have about $500 left. That is where, after I made sure my needs are paid for and other things that might be a little bit important to me, that is where that category comes in. So that is where I'm like, okay, I can put charitable organizations, charitable giving right here. And I'm going to donate maybe $100 or $200 a month to charitable giving. So you want to do that after you make sure all of your needs are taken care of, and you can make that as part of your wants. If you will definitely like to ensure that giving is in your budget, put it as a category. You make your budget, so there's no limitations. You can definitely have it there. Yeah, so do we have any recommendations for youth and college students for apps? Everybody, many people use Mint. A lot of your banking apps has money management on there. Delta Community, we have our money management tool, and it shows you a whole pie chart of where your money is going. So you want to use that as well. Like I said, some of you might be old school. You might want to write yours down. Some people might use an Excel spreadsheet. I think we actually have one that I can share with you all. I can share it with your team to send out to you guys if you want a spreadsheet template of creating a budget. But there's just a whole bunch of different budgeting tools that people like to use a lot. Some people use Robinhood, I think, as well. So just take a look as well to those as well. Let's see. Oh, that's a good question, Blaze. BlazeSport, do you have a list of scholarships for high school students with disabilities? I actually went and looked up and I Googled, and there was definitely a lot of scholarships for students with disabilities. And I also checked, a lot of these colleges have disability resource centers that have scholarships. So say you want to go to UGA or Georgia Tech, take a look and ensure and make sure that they have a disability resource center, and there's some scholarships there that may be specific to you. And then Annie, they're going to send you those resources as well. And I'm going to share our budget tracking sheet as well with you all. Do we have any other questions? Because I am right on time and I don't want to keep anybody too long. Yes, no problem at all. Thank y'all for joining. I really appreciate you all taking time out of your evening. I hope you guys learned something. Let me know if I didn't teach you anything at all. That's okay. I will take the feedback, So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have an amazing summer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. This is just jam-packed of incredible information that I wish I knew when I was in high school going into college. I learned some things now, so it was extremely beneficial. Before we hop off, and you may have mentioned this before all throughout the content, but if you could just give maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 just really key pieces of advice for our Blaze seniors maybe going into college, or maybe collegiate tips of how to budget. Would you mind sharing some that come right to your mind?
Oh, most definitely. Like I said, if I knew what I knew now, going into college, you're going to get hit with a lot. Honestly, you're going to get hit with a lot. You got school, there's clubs, there's activities, there's things happening on campus. What people always say all the time is like college students don't eat, like we're always eating ramen noodles, but it's because we're not prepared. So one of the first things you want to think of when you get to school is, do I always need new textbooks? Or can I can I rent a textbook? Can I get an old one? Can I actually find this textbook at a library and borrow it for a couple of months, because you're only using that textbook for a semester, right? That's one of my first things I would always advise people to do going into college is you may not always need that new textbook. Try to see if you can find that textbook for a cheaper price. I know there's a lot of sites that you can go on and find cheaper textbooks. So definitely try to find your textbooks for cheaper. Also, always try to make sure that you set money aside for certain emergencies. So once you get your refund check, because a lot of us love that refund check, save a couple of $100s for emergencies. A lot of times when we're in college, we're not thinking about emergencies. So when things happen, we don't have the money to pay for it. And then that's when we get into eating ramen noodles for another 3 months or 4 months. So I always start thinking about emergencies first, as would be my second tip. Just having a couple $100s. It's not like a full-on adult where you need thousands of dollars to the side, but just having a couple $100s for any emergencies that may pop up. Another tip that I would definitely suggest is to have a great support group. And when I say a support group, it's because you want to have friends that are kind of aligned with what you're thinking about in the future. You don't want to be in a group where all they think about is doing is partying and spending money. That's not the group for you. Because, hey, what I can say truthfully is that I was able to graduate college with honors, and I went out and I had fun and I was a part of clubs and things like that. But I had a great support group. And that support group, sometimes we cooked we did potluck. So that way people had meals for the week. Like you can meal prep together. So those are like be my top 3 tips is, one, make sure you try to buy older textbooks and use textbooks. 2, to try to save a little bit of money for emergencies, because that's very important, because you don't think about it now, but emergencies will happen. And then 3, have a good support group that's aligned with kind of where you are. Kind of find people that are like-minded and they're kind of going for the same thing. So that would be my top 3 tips going into college, to get you prepared. But like I always tell everyone, college is hard, but it's also very enjoyable. They call it the best years of your life for a reason. And you are definitely able to still graduate with honors and have fun. So those would be my 3 tips for all of my college-bound students. I actually still go on campus sometimes every once in a while just to see how things have changed. So definitely think about those things.
Yeah, that was awesome information. And I believe one of our Blaze alum going into their collegiate career is actually going to KSU. So you might have a potential alumni going. That's awesome.
Oh, Owls. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Things
again,
like, yeah, something like that.
Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this information to everyone. I know this is going to be passed around to many people tuning in after our live session. So thank you again. And also thank you to this partnership with Delta Community Credit Union. It's something that we cherish here at Blaze. And we just, again, thank you so much for taking the time. And to all of our listeners tuning in live, thank you. And also thank you to all of our listeners who are tuning into the recorded version. And as always, stay tuned for some other awesome, incredible YouthLEAD content that we are having here at BlazeSport. And again, thank you for everything. And to everyone, have a great night.
Have a great night, everybody. Bye.